One phone call could completely change the future of the New Orleans Saints, and it all starts with a single sentence that just sent shockwaves through the NFL. Maxx Crosby is a monster. That wasn't said by a random analyst or a social media hot take artist. That came from Terron Armstead, a man who spent years battling the best pass rushers in football and knows exactly what a true game wrecker looks like. And when Armstead says something like that, the league listens. Because this isn't just praise. This is a warning. This is a challenge. And for the Saints, this might be the most important crossroads moment they've faced in years. Maxx Crosby isn't just another star edge rusher. He's the kind of player offenses build entire game plans around and still fail to stop. A relentless, high-motor nightmare who lines up across from tackles and turns Sundays into survival tests. Since entering the league as a fourth-round pick in 2019, Crosby has done the unthinkable. He didn't just outperform his draft position. He obliterated expectations, climbed into the elite tier of pass rushers, and forced his name into every serious defensive conversation in the NFL. And now, somehow, someway, his future with the Las Vegas Raiders feels uncertain. That's where this story gets dangerous. In March 2025, Crosby signed a 3-year, $106.5 million extension. On paper, that screams stability. Franchise cornerstone. Untouchable. But football isn't played on paper, and contracts don't silence tension. Late in the regular season, Crosby wanted to stay on the field through a knee injury. He wanted to fight. He wanted to lead. The Raiders, looking at the long-term picture, shut him down. Smart business decision? Maybe. But when ultra-competitive superstars feel restrained, cracks start forming. Quietly. Slowly. Until suddenly, the entire league notices. Terron Armstead noticed that on the latest episode of his podcast, The Set with Terron Armstead, the Saints legend didn't tiptoe around the idea. He attacked it head-on. Maxx Crosby to New Orleans. Draft picks be damned. Armstead didn't frame it as a hypothetical. He framed it like a solution. Maxx Crosby is a monster, Armstead said. If you get an opportunity to bring him to your franchise, he is a game changer. And this is from experience. This is from studying this man and watching week after week him make plays. It looks like 1 versus 11. It's a no-brainer to me. 1 versus 11. That's not exaggeration. That's respect earned through pain. Armstead spent years lining up across from defenders who tried to ruin his quarterback's day. He knows the difference between a good pass rusher and a franchise-altering one. Crosby belongs in the second category. The kind of defender who turns third and manageable into third and impossible. The kind of presence that forces offensive coordinators to abandon their favorite concepts just to survive. So why does this matter right now for the Saints? Because timing in the NFL is everything, and according to Armstead, the Saints are staring at a rare window of opportunity. A quarterback on a rookie deal. Financial flexibility. A roster that doesn't need a full rebuild, just a catalyst. And that's where the draft pick argument comes crashing down. You keep these draft picks all you want, Armstead said. Cool. And then you can do a lot of great things with draft picks, but when you got a quarterback on his rookie deal, and that's the same situation, you have money to spend. And there's no better time than right now. We trade for Maxx Crosby. We're about to go win. That's not nostalgia talking. That's strategic clarity. The Saints have spent years trying to patch holes with mid-tier moves and hoping internal development would carry them. But the modern NFL doesn't reward patience without aggression. It rewards decisive strikes. When a proven elite talent becomes even remotely available, contenders don't hesitate. They act, and Maxx Crosby isn't just elite. He's transformative. Since 2019, Crosby has been a constant force. Double teams don't slow him down. Injuries don't silence him. Schemes don't confuse him. He wins with power, with technique, with relentless effort that never shuts off. Coaches love him because he sets the tone. Teammates love him because he refuses to take plays off. Fans love him because every snap feels like something might happen. Put that player in New Orleans and everything changes. Suddenly, the Saints' defense isn't just solid. It's terrifying. Offensive lines have to slide protection his way, which frees up everyone else. Coverage gets tighter because quarterbacks don't have time. Third downs turn into momentum swings. Close games tilt in your favor. This is how championships are built. Not by hoarding future possibilities, but by seizing present dominance. But let's address the elephant in the room. The Raiders. Las Vegas didn't hand Crosby $106.5 million because they wanted to lose him. They did it because he's the face of their defense and one of the few players who embodies the Raiders' identity. Tough, relentless, unapologetic. Trading him wouldn't just be a football decision. It would be a philosophical shift that's why the uncertainty matters. When Crosby pushed to keep playing through his knee injury and the Raiders shut him down, it wasn't just about health. It was about control, about differing visions of risk and reward. That kind of friction doesn't guarantee a trade, but it opens the door to conversations that previously didn't exist. And all it takes is one team willing to knock. The Saints could be that team. This isn't about desperation. It's about recognizing a moment. The league is loaded with young quarterbacks, evolving offenses, and defenses scrambling to keep up. Pass rush is the ultimate equalizer. And there are very few players who can single-handedly tilt that balance. Maxx Crosby is one of them. Terron Armstead isn't speaking from theory. He's speaking from survival, from film study, from first-hand experience. He's seen what happens when Crosby lines up across from you and refuses to be denied. And when someone like that tells your franchise to go all in, it's not noise. It's a blueprint. The question now isn't whether Maxx Crosby is worth the draft picks. The question is whether the Saints can afford to let this opportunity pass them by. Because windows close fast in the NFL. Rookie contracts end. Cap space disappears. Injuries happen. And the teams that hesitate are usually the ones watching someone else celebrate in February. Here's the real curiosity gap. What happens if the Saints don't make the call? What happens if another contender beats them to it? And what happens if Maxx Crosby, in a different uniform, becomes the reason New Orleans' season ends too early? That's the risk. That's the gamble. And that's why this conversation matters more than people realize. Now we turn it to you. If you're running the Saints, do you pull the trigger? Do you sacrifice future draft capital for a proven game changer in his prime? Or do you hold on to picks and hope the next Maxx Crosby falls into your lap? Because as Terron Armstead made painfully clear, players like this don't come around often. And when they do, the teams that act are usually the ones remembered. Drop your take in the comments. Would trading for Maxx Crosby make the Saints instant contenders, or is the price too high? And here's the part that most people are overlooking. This isn't just about Maxx Crosby as a player. This is about what his arrival would signal to the entire locker room. When a front office is willing to sacrifice premium draft capital for a proven star, it sends a message that echoes through every meeting room, every practice rep, every Sunday snap. It says, we're not waiting. We're not rebuilding. We're here to win now. That message matters more than fans realize. Defenses feed off identity, and Maxx Crosby is identity. He doesn't just rush the passer, he dictates tempo. Watch the film closely and you'll see it. Offensive tackles start cheating their stance. Tight ends hesitate before releasing into routes. Running backs chip instead of checking down. All of that changes how an offense functions, even when Crosby doesn't record a sack. Pressure like that doesn't always show up in box scores, but it shows up in wins. Now imagine pairing that relentless edge presence with the Saints' existing defensive talent. Suddenly, quarterbacks aren't just uncomfortable, they're rushed. Suddenly, mistakes happen earlier in games. Suddenly, New Orleans becomes a team nobody wants to face in December, when weather gets ugly and games turn physical. This is why Terron Armstead's words hit so hard. He didn't say Crosby was good. He didn't say Crosby was elite. He called him a game changer. That's a different tier entirely. That's the tier reserved for players who bend seasons in their favor. And Armstead knows what game changers look like because he's blocked them. He's felt the difference between someone you can scheme around and someone who wrecks the scheme entirely. Maxx Crosby belongs in the second category. The Raiders know this too, which is why this situation is so fascinating. Las Vegas didn't want to shut Crosby down late in the season, but they also couldn't risk their franchise cornerstone suffering a long-term injury. From a business standpoint, it makes sense. From a competitor's standpoint, it can feel like betrayal. That tension doesn't disappear overnight, especially when you're dealing with a player whose motor never shuts off. And that's where opportunity lives in the NFL. Not in chaos, but in discomfort. The Saints don't need to wait for a public trade request. They don't need a dramatic standoff. All they need is the awareness to recognize that rare talents occasionally become obtainable under the right conditions. And when that happens, contenders don't hesitate. Think back through recent NFL history. The teams that lifted Lombardi trophies were rarely the ones hoarding picks. They were the ones who identified a missing piece and aggressively went after it. Pass rushers, in particular, have always commanded a premium because their impact is immediate and undeniable. Draft picks are hope. Maxx Crosby is reality. That's the gamble Armstead is advocating for. Not recklessness, but calculated aggression. You already know what Crosby is. You already know how he performs against top competition. You already know how offensive coordinators fear him. There's no projection required. And that's why the rookie quarterback angle matters so much. When your quarterback is still on a rookie deal, the financial math changes entirely. You can afford to absorb big contracts. You can afford to stack talent. You can afford to be bold. That window doesn't stay open long, and once it closes, teams often regret not striking when they had the chance. This is the urgency behind Armstead's argument. Not tomorrow. Not next draft. Right now. Because imagine the alternative. The Saints stay conservative. They keep their draft picks. They hope to develop a young pass rusher who might someday become half of what Maxx Crosby already is. Meanwhile, the NFC gets tougher. Quarterbacks get faster. Offenses evolve. And that championship window quietly narrows. That's how good teams become stuck teams. Crosby changes that trajectory instantly. And here's another layer that doesn't get talked about enough. Leadership. Maxx Crosby isn't just a dominant edge rusher, he's a tone setter. He plays through pain. He practices hard. He holds teammates accountable. Coaches don't need to manufacture intensity when players like Crosby are in the room. It happens naturally. That kind of presence elevates everyone around him. Younger players grow faster. Veterans dig deeper. Standards rise. Cultures sharpen. Those things don't show up on transaction wires, but they win games. So when Terron Armstead says, "We trade for Maxx Crosby, we're about to go win," it's not bravado. It's recognition of what elite defenders do to franchises. Now flip the perspective for a moment. If you're the Raiders, what's the calculation? You've locked Crosby into a massive extension. You know his value. You know he's beloved by fans. But you also know that if frustration grows, it can infect a locker room. At some point, even elite organizations have to weigh whether holding on is worth the long-term risk. That doesn't mean a trade is inevitable. It means it's possible. And in the NFL, possible is all aggressive teams need. The Saints don't have to publicly flirt with the idea. They just have to be prepared. Prepared with draft capital. Prepared with cap structure. Prepared with conviction. Because if Maxx Crosby ever does become available, the bidding war will be fierce. Multiple contenders will be lining up. And the teams that hesitate will watch him dominate in someone else's uniform. This is why conversations like this matter before transactions happen. Because by the time a trade breaks, it's already too late to debate whether it was worth it. The decision has already been made behind closed doors. So now it comes back to you. As a fan, as an analyst, as someone who understands how rare players like this truly are. If you were sitting in the Saints' war room, would you push your chips to the center of the table? Would you sacrifice future picks for immediate dominance? Or would you play the long game and trust the draft to deliver something even close to Maxx Crosby's impact? Because Terron Armstead has made his stance clear. When a proven game changer is within reach, you don't overthink it. You act. And in a league where hesitation often costs championships, that mindset might be the difference between another forgettable season and a run that changes everything. Drop your answer in the comments. Would Maxx Crosby be the move that puts the Saints over the top, or is the risk too great? That debate is just getting started, and the NFL will be watching closely.